I want to talk about Makhosi Khoza, and I'd like to get your reaction on her deciding to quit the ANC. She seems to think that the ANC doesn't respect women. She seems to be disappointed about the direction the party is taking. What's your first reaction on her resignation?
I'm saddened by it, because I think that any organization does need people who are bold enough to speak out. I indicated at some point when I was asked this question that I would give myself time to be with her, because even as she is speaking out, I think that there are certain boundaries that would need to be put in place for her own protection. Sometimes when you're angry, you say things that afterwards you think, oh, should I have said that? But I think that I have said I admire her boldness. Resigning because she's going through a tough time, I don't think that was a wise thing. We have had leaders who've gone through a very tough time because they spoke out. And this is where the matter of Khoza comes out.
Yes.
He spoke out and said, we can't have this. And he and his colleagues wrote a whole memorandum criticizing the leadership for what happened while they were fighting in Wanki and while they were arrested in Botswana. A very brave move that had never been seen in the ANC. And the results were disastrous for him, or for them. They went through a tribunal. But they hung in there because they had so much conviction in the correctness of the ANC when it is right.
Yeah.
They had so much commitment to the ANC. And they were also quite certain that they needed to do what they needed to do. And it was the correct thing.
Do you think the ANC has failed her?
No.
Did it give her space to
I think that
criticize the party?
No, I think that... let's get back to the issue of Khoza. The ANC put up a tribunal, and this is in all the archives that you can find ANC material in. And they went through the tribunal. Now, they could easily have said, no, we're walking away. They didn't, because they believed in what they said, and they wanted to stand up for what they were saying and explain why they were saying it. And when you look back at our history, you realize that actually all those things that they did say were true. And those things needed to be rectified. But at that time, they came across to the leadership very much possibly like Makhosi comes across. Maybe the difference between that group of cadres in Khoza's time and Makhosi's, maybe she was alone. And there was quite a sizable lot of commanders there. But they were very determined that they're going to see it through. And it was hard for them. Right now, there's a whole issue about was Chris expelled or not?
Yes, I was going to come to that.
Yes,
no, that's
a
discussion with Mpohani to clarify the matters.
No, actually, I didn't. I indicated in the paper I was gobsmacked. I mean, Chris is a hero of note for me, and he brought me up. I owe some of my political thinking and leanings to him. I lived with him for a while in Lesotho and in various other places. He was my generation's hero by any measurement, especially soldiers. The point that I'm making about him is, here is a true leader who will take the flak, whether he thinks it is fair or not. He will take the flak. And the lesson we learn from that is, he took it like a soldier. He stood up for what he thought was right. He took it like a soldier. And we are all the better. We corrected our ways as the ANC. I belong to an ANC department that is called intelligence. And the ANC has, over a period of time, taken us through 3 commissions of inquiry about the harsh treatment that we give to people. Because the ANC has believed that we have ignored other people's human rights. And that kind of human rights ethics would have come out of people like Chris Hani. And they create a particular character of the ANC that is lasting, and that has an indelible mark. And it's a pity about Makhosi. But no, we didn't talk with Jimbo. But the example I was making, it wasn't reported in the depth. It was just a passing statement. But that is because every time I have been, when I'm talking about the organization, I get back to Chris, because he's my reference point. I get back to O.R. Tambo. When O.R. Tambo found that his organization was in disarray, he said, okay, let's go for a consultative conference. He got into the consultative conference and he found what he terms a whole group of very angry people. And but he had because he was the leader of the organization, he said, okay, fine, all of those things that you are saying the ANC has done, it means I have done. I take full responsibility. Let's sit down and sort them out. And we sorted the ANC out. On the Jimpo thing, I think I'll end there. No, she didn't call. She didn't ask me. But Chris is a hero of mine, and I'll continue talking about him, and I'll continue making this point, because it is at points like this where things are going so bad that we remember people like him.
Yeah.
What would he have done at a time like this?
Do you think
he would have stood up for the truth?
Do you think there's still more? And by more, I mean the majority of ANC, particularly ANC, NEC members that are like Chris Hani, that are like Makhosi, Khoza, who are able to speak. And I'm asking this because yesterday I was in conversation with the former president, Kgalema Motlanthe, and he seems to believe that the reason you have people in the NEC that can't even speak against the president is because most of them serve in his cabinet and they look at him as an employer. Do you agree with that view?
Well, there was a time, and I was thinking when I heard Comrade Kgalema speaking on 702, I was thinking, but Madiba did point this out, and Kgalema was there, and at no point did Madiba get any support. Madiba was looking at the situation that we're in and saying, look, we've got to divide the skills that we have, the personnel that we have, the leaders that we have between state and party. Because if we draw all of them into the state, we will not have the necessary engine to drive the organization. Therefore, people who are elected into the NEC should not be serving in the executive of government. Nobody bought into that at all. And so it has come through. This concern has come through. It was brought to us by Madiba, and nobody bought into it. So we had the opportunity to examine and take that decision. We declined that option. And I don't know if Comrade Kgalema's assessment is a holistic one. It's possibly one of the factors.
Okay.
It's possibly one of the factors, but it's not the totality of the problem that we're in right now.
But do you think there's enough ANC members that can face up the president or even the current leadership about what's happening in the ANC right now and not worry about their ministerial positions or positions in government?
I think that we need to contextualize this. Because every time we talk about what is wrong with the ANC, it boils down to the president. We're all responsible. Whatever it is we find ourselves in, we've all played a part in getting to where we are. There isn't any single individual who would have had so much power as to get us where we are. We've all either been part of this process, or we've looked away because it has not been convenient, which is why I say I admire people like Chris, because he wasn't going to look away. When something was wrong, he was going to sit down and address the matter. And we need people like that. And that is why I am regretful that Makhosi left.
Yeah.
Maybe she just couldn't stand it. She probably would not have been in the exile structures. Otherwise, she would have known that we've been through this. There are people who've been through this, and they have come out the best that we've had.
Yeah, and I hear you talk about how it's the responsibility of everyone, but I remember at the policy conference, the Secretary General actually presented a report which was quite clear and identified a number of scandals that involved President Jacob Zuma, and there was an admission in that report that to some extent those scandals and his personality actually cost the party at the polls. So even though there's this collective responsibility, there's individual responsibility on the part of the president, which the ANC through that report admitted to.
No. The responsibility is for all of us to have said, let's put this to the disciplinary process. And I have been insisting that there must be a disciplinary process so that whatever wrong, it doesn't matter how low or how high you are. If you are perceived or there is an interpretation that you put the ANC into disrepute, that is an offense. Anybody who crosses that line is put through a disciplinary process. Why has it taken all of us to do that?
Why do you think that hasn't happened?
I don't know. I was asked this question at a policy conference and I said, no, we must go through a disciplinary process. Then we're able to sift the truth from what is not true. And if in fact we find that anybody has indeed brought the ANC down, we should take the action that was taken against Chris. We have examples, outstanding examples of what happens when things go wrong. In this case, perhaps he wasn't. He didn't suffer the flack of the organization because he had done wrong. He suffered the flack because he had dared to point out the truth, and they didn't like the way that he had pointed it out, and they thought that it was a breach of the military discipline to write out a memorandum like that. But at some point, everyone needs to go through some kind of test. If we had all agreed and at the policy conference that this is what has happened to the president, why was he not taken through a disciplinary process?